Hi guys, welcome to Chrissy's Books. I am Chrissy. Thank you for tuning in for this week. And as usual, definitely subscribe below if you like my book reviews, because let's keep it real. So let's jump right in. So for this week's book, I read The Mountains Sing by Nguyen Phan Quế Mai. And apologies if I did not say that correctly. I try my best. I won this book off of Instagram. Never win anything ever in my life, and I entered a competition and I won. So I actually have had this book on my list for about 3 months. So as soon as it arrived, I jumped it to the top of my list and I had to read it. So this is actually the advanced review copy of the book. The actual book cover is so pretty. I mean, it's pretty much the same, but this is what it actually looks like. So it's got like sort of more orangey and it's just so pretty. I love it. The Mountains Sing by Nguyen Phan Quế Mai is an engrossing multi-generational story that follows the Tran family, and it is set against an epic backdrop of the Vietnam War. Tran Du Lan, who was born in 1920 in a rural village in North Vietnam, was tragically forced to flee her family's ancestral farm with her 6 children during the land reform as the communist government rose rapidly in North Vietnam. And then fast forward many years later, in Hanoi, her young granddaughter, Huong, comes of age during turbulent times while her parents and uncles head down the Ho Chi Minh Trail to fight in a war that not only tears her entire family apart, but it also tears apart her whole country. The Mountains Sing is heaping with rich Vietnamese tradition and language, and this story shows us that even with the devastating and heavy tragedy of the Vietnam War, there is always room for hope, for forgiveness, and for kindness. I'm just gonna jump right in with my book review for this because I cannot hold my excitement for this awesome book. Literally from the first page, I was hooked. I was hooked into this book, you guys. As soon as you read it, you're just completely transported into the lush mountains and the rich culture, and all your senses are just totally awoken by Quế Mai's writing and heartfelt words in this book. And I always think, no matter what people say, books that are written by authors who are actually from the countries of the place where the book actually takes place, does that make sense? I just think that is just always so much more richer than having a book written by a white person who's not from Vietnam telling us a story about Vietnam. And it just makes it for a rich, rich story. This is definitely one of the most refreshing reads that I have read in a really, really long time. I've read a lot of books based in Vietnam, but they've always been from the Westerner's point of view. So this is definitely my first sort of real book that I've read from a person who's actually from Vietnam and who is telling the stories from their perspective, which I really feel is why I really love this book so much, because it just felt more real. It felt like this person knows what they're talking about, and it just felt just more just sensual as well. I just loved everything about this book. I would definitely say that the character that had the most hardships in this book was definitely the grandmother. Her life was just freaking epic. It was insane. I mean, she loses so many loved ones in her life. Still, she continues to go on, and she even raises her granddaughter when she's 50 something years old. Still, while the Americans are in Vietnam, still bombing them. The amount of resilience that she has is absolutely inspiring. And it just goes to show you that even after everything that the grandmother goes through, she still always has hope for the future and still has so much love for her family. And then also she makes some pretty incredible decisions in this book. I don't want to spoil the book for you, but I mean, the grandmother is just everything. She's everything. Okay, so with that, I'm going to take a little water break, you guys, because I feel like we need a break. And when I come back, I'm going to give you my rating. So my rating for this book is dun, 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 dun. I gave The Mountain Sing a 10 out of 10, which is the first ever for 2020. And 10 out of 10 rating for me, this book means that it is off the charts. I loved everything about this book. I literally have no negative comments for it. It was just an epic book and it was enthralling. I loved it. Like, I just loved everything about it. And if I could describe this book in 4 words, it would be epic, because it's a bit of an epic story. It's insane. It just spans through decades and decades. It's a very traumatic read. You do go through quite a lot of heavy, intense situations in this book, and you're sort of like, oh God, I cannot read like another page, and then you go back in because you have to know what happened. It's very vivid. I mean, Quế Mai completely transports us into the mountains, into the villages, so you really feel like you're there. It's just a really, really rich book. I would also describe it as hopeful, because after everything that's happened in this book, you are left feeling hopeful. Quế Mai definitely leaves us with this message of longing for peace and longing for hope, even through all the turbulent times that her ancestors have gone through. So yeah, that is my rating for that book. The Mountain Sing is a homage to all the struggles the Vietnamese people went through during the many years in this time period. It is a story about sorrow. It's a story of loss, of hope, of healing, and a longing for peace. I just absolutely loved this book. If you want to read a story about Vietnam from the other point of view, because I always think that you should definitely get both sides of the story, because there are a lot of books out there about Vietnam told from the Westerners' point of view. This is the first book that I've read from a person from Vietnam who was told, the real story. And even though it was a fiction book, you really did get a sense of what it would have been like to be there during that time. And I really do appreciate that from Quế Mai's book. She is actually pretty awesome. So she has about, I think, 7 books published, nonfiction, fiction, and poetry. But this is her first ever book from a Vietnamese citizen whose novel is in English and is published in international acclaim. So congrats! So I would love to thank Quế Mai for bringing this book into my life and to our lives, because it's a really awesome book. I really think that everyone should read this. I freaking loved it, and I know you're gonna love it. To wrap this up, so the song pick for The Mountain Sing came to me while I was doing a yoga class. Really random. It was just in the background, and it just really reminded me of this book. So my song pick for The Mountain Sing is To Build a Home by the Cinematic Orchestra. I just wanted to pick a song that just really captures the epicness of this book. So that's it, guys. My first 10 out of 10 of 2020. Thank you so much for tuning in. Read this book. It is awesome. You're gonna love it, I promise. She's an incredible author. Check her out. And also check out my written review if you wanna, read a bit more about it. Thank you.